Views expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Mercer University or WMUB. Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Middle Georgia Spotlight. I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Thanks so much for joining us. The program is made possible by Caduceus Medicine and J. Franklin Automotives. Joining us in the spotlight this week is Mrs. Yvonne Williams, who is the president and CEO of the Macon Chamber of Commerce. Did I get that right? Is the Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce?
Chamber.
The Greater Macon
Yes,
Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much for making time for us. I know you're very busy, as you know, we're getting back, commerce is coming back. How are you doing?
Well, we're doing well. I think the thing is your outlook, is how do you make this an opportunity, and how do you look for the future? And that's the mindset that a chamber should have as it evolves into its regular state of business. I do think that I'm looking at it with a real broad brush of the opportunities that we're going to need to coalesce around for the Greater Macon area, and I'm also looking at what are some of the obstacles we're going to have to overcome. And you know, we were a balanced economy, but we weren't a robust economy before the pandemic. We had a stable population, but not a heavily growing population. We have people at risk that are either not into the mainstream of an economic vitality, or they're trying to find their way into the job market. So we had some sort of underpinning issues that were affected around Macon, that now we have to compile an opportunity to really be robust in recovery. And I believe that we can form partnerships and be diligent about how that comes to be.
Yeah. So we're talking about job loss when you come in. I know that the business community is helping in any way they can, but when it comes right down to it, if the businesses are not hiring, if they're not performing, they're not hiring, people are losing their jobs. How much is that impacted on what's happening?
That's going to be a big deal for Greater Macon. We already have like over 1,000 cases just in the service industry of unemployment, processes that have happened just in the last 30 days. There's a big sector, and one could imagine, in the retail sector, in the restaurant sector, the service-related sector. So when you compile that on top of regular unemployment, you know, we're going to have to be real creative in how we retrain and re-identify how people access services such that they will come back into the job market. There are some theories that some people may not want to be back in the job market if they're doing better with their PPP payments and things of that nature, but certainly that won't last forever. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we're going to be using this time really creatively to build those partnerships for technical education, for retraining, for letting people have virtual technology opportunities they can learn online. There's so many courses now offered by the universities that are complementary, that you can get a great portfolio of new skill sets right here in Middle Georgia. That would be a fabulous way that we could help people become more employable at different levels as we build our economic strategy.
Yeah, because on the other side of this thing, what I'm hearing from experts, economists, and people who know more about retail than I, but we probably never will see 100% capacity in a store. Where we used to see 100%, maybe it's 50%. Restaurants used to be maybe 25-30% of their capacity will be used. So what does this look like on the other side of this?
I think you're very perspective with that. I think there's some creative things that come out of these challenges. A lot of restaurants are looking at their to-go business. Some of them are really booming with the creativity of driving up with curb service and getting a really nice entrepreneurial type meal that you wouldn't have in your bigger chains. So some people are looking at how they reconfigure their outside dining or allow some exclusive dining rather than just, you know, the typical format. It does create challenges, but fortunately in a town like Macon, we have ways that we can distance. We have space that we can allow parking that would be a little bit more creative than your average urban settings. And there's walkable spaces that are very attractive that we can recreate for dining. So I think we're gonna have a lot of things on the table to look at. And I think you're right. In retail, you know, I like to share with people that it's great to shop big box, but you're really helping your community more when you're shopping the local entrepreneurial setup. There's statistics that say if you spend 10% of your income on local entrepreneurial businesses, you're going to help that economy like 40 times than you would if you just spend it on the internet and with big box. So while we love Amazon, let's think about the wonderful creative storefronts that we have here in Macon, and the experience and the psychological aspect of that is really important. People do not want to be at home forever. They want to be out on the streets. They want to have a way that they experience cities and community. And I think that's going to help us psychologically to feel like we're back when we're able to walk. Even if you're just storefront shop, window shopping, you're doing something that's creative and giving to your community. And I'm hoping that the communities the size of Macon will find ways that that's going to be a very exciting experience, much more than if you're in a very dense urban environment.
Well, the Chamber of Commerce is your job to put a bright smile, if you will, on everything, no matter how bad things are, to be very optimistic that things are going to be okay. But people are saying that we could wind up with 20% unemployment. What does that do to a city like Macon in terms of the overall economic viability going? And they say, well, probably won't be for 3 or 4 months while this money is coming, but it will probably be another year.
I think we're going to see a long period of time into 2021. I think we're going to have to look at other strategic types of employment sectors. We can't rely just on heavy industrial. We're going to have to be creative with technology-based companies that might like to be in a city the size of Macon. How do we build that infrastructure? How do we retain the university students that are here or that will come back to Macon to finish their university experience? How do we retrain the older population to be back in the workforce? The veterans community that could come back to the Middle Georgia area, that could be a very big segment. I mean, everything's on the table. And I think would be very, very dismissed if we don't look at a combination strategy, a collective strategy, and a collaborative strategy, to say the least. I think the new mayor and the council are going to have to be diligent about putting their team together, and the business community is going to have to be front and center at the table. We need to flex some of the policies that afford better uses of policies on fee structure and things that support business and give them some flexibility as we go through these next 18 to 24 months. It's not business as usual. It definitely is not business as usual.
While it's not business as usual, we know that the business community always rise to the occasion and help where they can, through it, be it the United Way, the various foundations. How has the business community stood up during this pandemic?
Well, I think organizations like Josh and mine are really serving as a resource outlet of the best information that we can share. We've got it up and serving on our websites. We're interlocked and integrated with our share of information. The Chamber's conducting town hall meetings every week. We've had every high-level official booked to be a spokesperson on our town hall meetings so that we can have our advocacy very strong, saying that Central Georgia is an economic opportunity for the state of Georgia, and we need their attention to what our outcomes are going to be. So from every senator to congressman to local representation to city officials, we've had that routine of being on the network. And it's very good because we can't have routine personal meetings, as you know. So right now, the Zoom meeting format is our best opportunity to really connect. And quite frankly, some of these officials really like it because they're not having to be strung out being on flights, trying to make connections to get to an event. They can be on your network in 20 minutes and be there to have a real update. So there's some good things out of this that maybe technology will serve us well as we begin to continue our advocacy, our outreach, the connectivity, and being the resource base for how people get real information they need to make good decisions.
Well, the federal government has pushed a lot of money to private businesses if they would keep people employed. Are we getting our fair share? Thus far, I know it's still ongoing, and they're talking about doing another one. How have the businesses in Macon and Bibb County fared in terms of getting that money so they can keep people hired on the payroll?
It's on go, but it's been slow. I mean, let's just face it, people have had to wait longer than they anticipated to get their first increments of funding. It's not a fund to take care of all your expenses. It's really the basics of your employment, your equipment, and your rent. So you're not going to be robust as you would with the other types of income you might have had. Some people are starting to get their unemployment. I know the EIDL funds have dropped down and some of the PPP payments have dropped down, but Congress is going to have to look at a fourth stimulus. Whether we like to talk about it or not, it's going to have to happen. I mean, Chambers of Commerce, for instance, are 501c6 organizations. We were not included in any of those stimulus packages, only the 501c3s. So that's another type of an industry sector that's important because we serve businesses and we need to be operable for the long term in order to be effective. But those are kind of the loopholes that happen when you have to get something out quickly, and you got to cover the bases at the beginning. But there's still some opportunities to help fund the other sectors that will need the support.
Have you been like a clearinghouse? Like if I'm a small business and I say, well, I'm having too much trouble here, first place a lot of people call chamber. How can I get on this act? Have you all provided any technical support? Who's providing technical support?
Well, that's all having to be part of the network. You can't, people need to know how they can access things within a network. So things like the Small Business Development Center and the SCORE, all those need to be packaged so that people understand, how do I connect these? We've had some coaching, but frankly, with Macon having so many entities that serve in that space, the best thing you can do is be a catalyst for accumulating and having a good, strong presence on the website system so that people know that they can get real information. It changes daily. I mean, anything we know about this pandemic, things change daily, and the kind of information that's turning out changes within those agencies. You got to be able to post it quickly and efficiently and on a frequent basis.
Well, Macon Chamber has been around over 175 years, and I'm sure they will continue to be around. But on the other side of this, you were saying that we are all going to be different, if you will.
Yes.
As to how we function, what we do, and how we do what we do.
Yes, and I think that we're going to have to really think about what do we really have passion about for our economy. It's not just going to happen. We're going to have to make it happen, and the government's not going to pull us out of every type of downfall. We're going to have to be strong together. We're going to have to really think about what do we want things like SPLOSH to pay for in the future. How can we build infrastructure? One of the nice things about Macon, it has a lot of green space, a lot of Mulgee National presence. It has the riverfront. It has the Amerson Park. You don't find that much in urban areas that you can really respect and have access to. Maybe that's our future. What can we do to really preserve very, very important assets, but also make them connectable and really generate that quality of life that we've been aspiring to? But maybe we step up now and pay for it. The citizens can get together and pay for SPLOSH and have ways that we come around top projects and not be so divided among different districts, but think of the holistic part of Macon Bibb for the future. That's the cities that are going to really come out of this and survive. And I think Macon can do that, but we won't be able to think about it politically like we have in the past.
Yeah. Well, I am impressed with your positive outlook. Obviously, we're trying to get through this medical pandemic that we have before us, but we also have to look down the road and be proactive and planning now, and I can tell that that's already going on at the Chamber. So thank you so much.
Well, I have to give you a little story. My daughter's home from college, so she is now finishing up her exams, and the reason that I can't politely stay longer is I promised to take her to Dickey's Farms to get strawberries today.
Oh, wow. Well,
because that's a very nice social distancing kind of project.
And supporting the local economy.
And where can you do that if you're in urban Atlanta? Yeah. So this is great.
Well, thank you. Hold on one second, madam. We've been talking with Mrs. Yvonne Williams, who is the president and CEO of the Middle Georgia Chamber of Commerce, Greater Macon Chamber of Commerce, and she mentioned Josh Rogers earlier. We're going to have him on the program. He's the president and CEO of NewTown Macon, and they've been dealing with downtown development and just going gangbusters. We're going to find out how has this affected his organization and what we can look for beyond this pandemic. We'll be right back. Welcome back. We're joined now by Josh Rogers, who is the president and CEO of NewTown Macon. As you heard in the early part of this show, the Chamber of Commerce, some of the challenges they're working on, some of the things they're looking forward down the road. And we'd like to hear from NewTown Macon. First of all, let me congratulate you on how much you had accomplished. And I say had because I know it's going to continue, but this has probably put an abrupt stop to what you are doing.
You're absolutely right, but I mean, you deserve a lot of that credit too, because you've been on our board, and during your administration, you did a lot to spark the revitalization that we're enjoying right now. Yeah, I mean, right before this crisis, I had to pinch myself sometimes walking around downtown. Most of our storefronts are full. We've got 51 restaurants, 26 bars and music venues, 600 lofts, 1,000 residents. I mean, up from near zero in all those categories in the late 90s. So, yeah, I mean, it's been an incredible surge back to life for downtown, and an abrupt stop.
How has this affected small businesses? Because you've incentivized them, you've encouraged them to come down. They came, they're open. Now they're shut, can't sit and eat, can't sit and have a drink. How has this impacted the bottom line?
It's been an incredible challenge, unimaginable. I mean, of all the disaster scenarios you walk through, we never considered something like this. So in all the small business training we do, we never expected that your revenues could go to zero and stay there. So it's been a really, really big challenge. When the shutdown first took place, we had a succession of business owners in our office who had never laid off a person before. And so we started that first week assembling training materials to say, okay, here's the website, and we walked through everybody step by step by step. Here's how you lay off your employees. Because one of the things that people didn't understand early on, if you report to the state that you've laid off your employees, they get benefits in about a week. If you let them initiate the claim, it takes 10 weeks for them to get benefits. So, I mean, we know most Americans have $400 saved. That's it. So there's no way these people were going to be able to afford food if we didn't have the business owners filing the claims for them. So that's really where we shifted gears and decided that we were going to be a training and technical assistance organization until this is over. So all day, every day, my entire team and me, all we're doing is taking phone calls from business owners. And now it's not just downtown, it's all of Central Georgia. And we're just answering their questions. How do you take advantage of these government resource programs? How do you spend the money to make sure all the money gets forgiven? How do you take care of your people? So we're just providing technical assistance to help businesses survive as best they can. The bottom line for me is we spent a generation bringing downtown back, and I don't want to do it again. These are good businesses. They're family operated. They're locally owned. I don't want to lose a one of them.
So we have to do what we have to do to support them, obviously, once they're up. But I guess until we get through this lockdown and sheltering in place, what are your plans? What are you looking at beyond the horizon, if you will?
You know, one of the things Dr. Gotze always says that history favors downtown. That every economic trend in the world is pointing towards city centers, and I don't think that's going to change. I don't see any reason it would after this. And also, like we were just talking about, I think there's going to be a heightened awareness about the business, where we spend our money, and who it's supporting. Right? That some of them that in some places the money goes to Wall Street, and at some places the money goes around the corner to our neighbor's house. And so I'm really hopeful that downtown businesses are going to do well on the other side of this. It's just getting there that's incredibly difficult, because I mean, these businesses have expenses they can cut, like personnel and maybe some utilities and supplies, but then they have expenses they can't cut, like rent, and then just keeps coming. And so there's a limited amount of time that people can survive on 1/10 of their revenue and still have a business. And that's what we're running up against now.
Well, I'm looking forward to that day, and I know it's going to happen, when we can have this huge downtown party once this is open, be it Christmas, lighting the Christmas tree, whenever, Labor Day, whenever it's going to be, but it's going to happen. I'm looking, and I know you're planning for that day. But let's talk about small businesses trying to get over that bridge, because a lot of you, as I said earlier, a lot of the companies, they're small businesses.
Really small.
They're mom and pop. They put money together. This bridge, will there be loan programs, the local banks, other than the federal government, or are we all looking to the federal government to be the savior in this one?
Yeah, right now it's the federal government, no doubt. I mean, almost every traditional lending institution has had to take their entire staffs and point them towards processing these federal Paycheck Protection Program loans because they've never had this loan volume before at all. So that really is the source of money that's available now. The good side of it, one of the good reasons about us moving into technical assistance so fast, none of our businesses have lawyers on staff, accountants on staff. And so we've been able to be that service for them. And so, we have businesses downtown, they're getting $5,000 from the Paycheck Protection Program. They're getting $7,000. But we've been able to help them get that cash that hopefully is going to be enough to bridge them through. But right now, those are the resources that are available. And the system's overwhelmed. We were hoping the SBA would start issuing these economic injury disaster loans. They're 30-year paybacks, really low interest. So far, not a single business has gotten an offer of a loan through that program.
I interviewed the president of Mercer University, who happens to serve, I think he still serves as chair of the, and this was about a month ago when it first started, a month and a half ago. And he said what he feared most was for the employees. I said, what can? He said, I fear that at the end of this, so many people will lose their jobs and won't be able to have the support they need. Do you feel that for the people?
Absolutely. I mean, America has overcome worse, and we will overcome this. I have no doubt. We are tenacious, creative, entrepreneurial people. We will make it happen. But yes, like I was talking about, in every one of these businesses, we're trying to find a new equilibrium. Can I make a profitable business even with lower sales and with lower employees? Okay, well then the business survives, but with lower employees and lower sales. And just in downtown Macon alone, those 100 restaurant and bars we have over 1,000 employees, most of whom are still out of work. It's you multiply that across the county and across the country, it's going to be an incredible challenge.
It's amazing you still have a smile on your face, Josh, with those type of...
I'm an optimist.
Yeah, and I can tell. But what about the organization itself? The chamber president said because she was a 3-4C or whatever it was, she wasn't able to benefit, even though she's trying to provide services. Have you been able to benefit from?
Yeah, we applied early on for the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance, which gives you $1,000 per employee. So a couple of weeks ago, that was deposited. It was about $10,000, and that was incredibly helpful.
But what about you as an organization, because you are performing this work? Will the government give you some, do you qualify for grants?
Private philanthropy has helped. So when we started doing this training for downtown only, I got a call from Catherine Dennis at the Community Foundation, and they're running the COVID-19 Response and Recovery Fund. It's a partnership with United Way and Community Foundation. And they said, hey, look, this material applies to everyone. Would you be willing to teach all of Central Georgia? And so they agreed to provide us with a grant to develop a custom curriculum, and we teach anywhere from 3 to 4 classes a day with people from across Central Georgia on how to use these programs. And so that's been a great way for us to stay busy, and they also provided a grant that's able for us to continue to meet some of our operating needs. But like every business, we will come out of this different. It won't be the same.
What we have heard, those of us who sit on our couch, old people that stay home like me, we've heard that the big boys were at the top of the line getting the money, and little companies that you're championing and advocating for were too late.
There's definitely some truth to that. Especially as the program rolled out, the banks were incentivized to take care of their biggest customers, because you get one loan fee on a $10 million loan. That's a lot easier than a whole bunch of loan fees on a bunch of small loans. So the system was really set up to favor the big entities. The other thing is the big entities had whole departments of lawyers and accountants who could make sure the forms got filled out correctly. But we have decided to go toe-to-toe and make that fight on a business-by-business basis using our team's expertise. And we've been incredibly successful at it. So far, like I said, even though the banks may not have an incentive to make a $5,000 loan, we have pushed to make sure that our businesses downtown get their fair share of the resources. I mean, a big business surviving is just as important to the owner as a small business surviving, if not more so to those small businesses. So, I mean, these programs are designed to help everybody, and we want to make sure that everybody benefits.
We have heard in the last economic downturn, we heard about green shoots. We see things. Are you seeing green shoots? We'll open up again. The money's begin. Are we seeing people coming back downtown, shopping, using some of the facilities there?
I would say yes. You know, seeing those first signs of life. people are definitely tired of being at home. They're willing to go the extra mile and try and protect themselves and their customers. And so, yeah, even just over the past couple days, this week, we're starting to see a lot more commerce in downtown. I think people are getting a lot more comfortable with how things are going to work on curbside delivery. Our restaurants are getting smarter about how they package and sell the food. So a lot of them have found their baseline of operations. And so some of them are selling out every day. You know, they say this is the meals we have to sell, and they are sold by the time they actually enter the service. So, some of those things are definitely starting to work, but it's like you said earlier, they're working at such a small scale compared to where they were. It's a little scary about what that's going to look like, because this ain't going to be over at any time soon. It's not like we'll flip a switch and we'll be having a street party again.
You know, you mentioned Alex Habersham. I spoke to him last week. You know, he does a lot of work with minority-owned businesses, small businesses, and he told me he'd partner with you in somehow. What are we doing with minority-owned businesses who are already operating such a thin margin all the time? Not that other people weren't as well.
Well, no, but you're right. But there's a whole extra layer of challenges for minority-owned businesses, and especially black-owned businesses. I mean, I think one of the things we want to be transparent about in Macon is it's not just minority-owned businesses. We want more black-owned businesses downtown. So we did a recent survey, and about 20% of our storefronts are operated by black entrepreneurs, and we want to increase that to 50%. So it looks like the whole community looks like. So we partnered with Macon Middle Georgia Black Pages to do a program that was specifically aimed at recruiting black entrepreneurs, and it's something we plan to repeat every year. Although funding that program is now going to be challenging. It's just like everything else. The amount of money that's available in philanthropy is now a fraction of what it was just a few months ago. But yeah, we're committed to whatever it takes doing that partnership.
Well, again, I'm missing First Fridays. I'm missing. I miss Cinco de Mayo. I think it was yesterday, and we have other things coming up. So we're looking to you and your leadership, and we're going to support you in any way that we can, this entire community, because too much work has gone into downtown. Absolutely. And we want those people to survive, those small business owners, and we're going to have to stop going to Atlanta and start spending our money.
Absolutely, right here with people you know and love. You got to help your neighbors.
Well, we have 30 seconds left. I'll give you the last 30 seconds. What would be
well, yeah, I mean, I think you're right on. When you're choosing to spend the dollars you've got to spend, please prioritize local businesses. These are people who are dependent on every dollar to make it happen.
Well, I'll tell you one thing is that one place is being heavily utilized, and I know that you all have been at the forefront of these trails. About Averson Park, and it's full of people all the time.
Thank God for Amerson right now, right?
Yeah. And thank you very much, and all the best to you. If I could be of any help to you, please let me know.
Same here. Thanks for having me.
And we want to thank you all for joining us here. We've been speaking with Josh Rogers, who is the president and CEO of NewTown Macon. They've been doing a great job downtown, bringing people back downtown. So continue to go downtown, but be safe, keep your distance, wash your hands, spend some money with local people, even if you have to take the bag and go with it. Until next week, I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Goodbye.